All right, here we go.
That one's kind of fitting.
I like that one. You have to send me that.
It's kind of fitting. It's in your, it's built in. This is a built-in one.
Oh, nice. Welcome everyone to another exciting edition of the CISSP Mentor Program brought to us by FRSecure and Security Studio and Ron and Christoph.
Evan.
And Mr. Evan, our fearless founder. Glad to have everybody here tonight. It is the last of the classes in the series, and we'll be picking up where we left off last week, doing some practice exams and Q&A with all of you. So please do use the Slack channel, use the YouTube. We want to make sure that you get the most out of this as possible and that Evan tries on as many filters as we can get through in a class.
Yeah, oui.
Aha. Anything to add, my fellow fearless instructors, before we start going down the road?
All good here.
All right, I'm done. No, I was just checking out the new, I like black and white. That looks good. Checking out the new filters. Did you say founder or flounder?
Founder.
You know, one time I was scuba diving and I saw a flounder. They kind of skirt across the bottom-ish of the water. They have two eyes that on one side of their body. Did you know that?
No. Two eyes on one side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, flounders do. The fish. Tastes
I
good.
gotta Google it. I've heard of them. I don't think I've ever seen one.
Yeah, they're good. Ron, I'm super excited that you're here because honestly, man, I'm super impressed with your ability to relate to people and teach and just keep a positive attitude. So I'm happy you're here, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm so glad to be a part of this fun adventure, helping so many people learn more about how to be a great security professional.
Yeah, it's been cool. Well, it's been a long journey, right? I mean, on the one hand, it's hard to believe it's over already, almost. On the other hand, it's like, thank God it's over because, you know, we created slides, you know, from scratch this year. We refreshed the content and oh my gosh, was that as hard for you guys as it was for me?
It was brutal.
Yes.
So I had to read it, try to understand it, have the old information in my head as the frame of reference, which caused a lot of conflict. Then try to figure out what was salient and then how am I going to teach it. And that process combined with actually putting it into a slide format was challenging, I think is the term I'd go with.
Yeah.
The fun thing with the slides, just for those who look through the slides, think about how we build them. Is that we don't usually use too many animations. So that's why when you look at our slide decks, we'll have 100 to 200 or more slides. It's just to build out the thought. So you can sometimes skip ahead if you're just reading through the slides. But yeah, it takes a while to get through to make it make sense, to make it somewhat entertaining as well.
Yeah. And this year, I think for me personally, it's been PowerPoint hell for me, you know, because the CISSP program, we actually yesterday, and I don't know if Meg is part of this class as well, but our first ever certified virtual chief information security officer. So our first ever CISSP passed her exam yesterday.
Congratulations, Meg.
That is awesome. Yeah, for those who are following along watching this, as you're taking the test, please share with us in Slack. You can't really tell too much about your experience, but just your general experience, like some people have already done. And then if you are successful, we love to cheer you on. So please keep sharing in Slack.
And if you're not successful, don't beat yourself up.
True.
We still want to cheer you on, right?
Good point.
Yeah, there's still hope. There's still hope for you.
Maybe you didn't get enough sleep.
My son graduated. So my son is a penetration tester for FRSecure. He wanted to follow in my footsteps, poor kid. But he, right out of college, so he went to college at, I don't know, River Falls, University of Wisconsin, River Falls. Graduated with a double major, economics, that's money things and such.
Yes.
And computer science. And he came to FRSecure and he got the job himself. Actually, his first time he applied for an internship at FRSecure, they turned him down. I thought, that's awesome. You know, my own son can't get a job here. That's great. I love it. You got to earn your keep, you know, everywhere. But it was 6 months in and he was so excited to tell me something. He says, Dad, I'm going to go for my OSCP. And I said, son, you're not going to pass. And he's like, what? What do you mean I'm not going to pass? I go, you're not ready for that, brother. It's going to take some time. You know what I mean? You need to get some foundation, you know, built up first before you'll be ready for that. And so for some people, and the reason why I bring that up as a story is, you know, in the CISSP, there are people who don't pass the first time. What I don't want is for you to beat yourself up about that, for you to give up on this journey, this dream you're on. For one, we need you in this industry, assuming you're a good person. If you're not a good person, we'll find you and get you out of the industry anyway. But we really want you here, and we love building people up. We love this opportunity. So I just want to say that don't put so much pressure on yourself either that you almost talk yourself out of passing. But keep it up, you know what I mean? And if you don't pass, I almost would like to hear from you too. Email me. Email, you know, any one of us, the instructors, and tell us what you thought. Tell us what we can do to help you out. We're invested in this with you.
And I'll say it again. I've said it a lot. Flashcard app. The secret to my success was the minute I walked through those doors to take the test, information was fresh. It was very fresh in my mind. I did a big study session the night before. Went through the entire, still have them. They're paper flashcards that I had gotten with the study kit. Went through all of those, went through the app, had to pass 10 consecutive times on the practice app, went to bed, woke up, did not study, but woke up within that magic window of I'm awake enough to be awake, but I'm freshly awake. So I've got peak energy, peak thinking, peak everything. Good food in the belly to carry me through. And then I went in and I just went with the gut. And that was the secret for me. And I believe that probably played more into my success than a mastery of the knowledge even.
Knowing how to take tests is part of the challenge, particularly online tests. I saw in the Slack channel, and I don't have it up at the moment, but someone mentioned reading through the questions thoroughly, be careful of your assumptions, go through the different answers, and don't just, while you use your gut, do that process of elimination. You usually have enough time to spend thinking about each question and each answer, and make sure you can defend your answer. When you're looking at the answer, it's what is the best answer? Quite often you'll see 3 out of the 4 are correct, but which one is most correct according to the exam materials too sometimes? Because I'll sit there and I'll argue with exam questions, and which of course is futile. But I love your advice, Ryan, in terms of positive energy as you're going into the test. Keep having that positive energy as you're taking it. If you're not getting a few of the answers, catch your breath for a minute. Don't let it bring you down, because really negative energy can make it harder for you throughout the test. Realize that question is done, move on, go on to the next question.
And know that you have at least 5 where you can go, you know what? I don't like this one and I don't care. And just answer, you know, because there is that margin, right? You don't have to score 100 to pass. Be judicious in the use of that. But I promise you, during my exam, there was a couple times that mouse got clicked real hard when I was like, next question.
Yeah.
So I do see a question in chat from Alexandra regarding go for CISSP or CCSP, which is the cloud certification. Of course, the answer is it depends. What are your goals and think long-term goals. I'm often asked this type of question about certs. Do I focus on a particular area or go as a generalist first? Well, what are you doing now? What will be most valuable? And then where do you see yourself in 5 years? And hopefully that'll help you answer. Notice I've quite learned a lot from politicians on how to answer questions without actually ever answering a question.
I'll give a slightly different response. And this was told to me as well when I think it had just come out or was coming out soon. And I was debating whether to do it. And what was said to me is, if you're going to do it for the sake of having it, do it immediately following your CISSP, because there's 80% overlap in the content. And so if you are going to go for both of those certs, do them right on top of each other. Do the CISSP first, and then follow up with any of the other ones. For that matter, you could do your CISM right on top as well. Ron's 100% right. It comes down to what you're going to do. That's a financial investment. But if you are going to do more than one, do them as close together from this cram and study as possible. It'll increase your success. Remember too, you have to keep CPEs up on all the ones you have. So know the time commitment you're committing to.
Hey,
there he is.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we're in trouble now.
I should put my beret back on.
Who let the Frenchman in?
Yeah, oui.
I'm working on it. I realize I don't have enough beard for InfoSec, so I'm trying to give it a go.
You need more pressure. It's like Play-Doh. The more pressure, the more it grows.
Don't be a sore loser.
Love it. Love it, Christoph. Another question in the chat about finding someone to endorse you after you've taken and passed. Normally you want to have someone who you develop a relationship with. You can reach out through the Slack channels to us, to others, your local ISC Squared chapter or ISSA or ISACA. See if you can find someone there. If not, there are folks online as well. So great questions in the chat.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, there's a question I got.
Quiz you.
Nice. There's a question that was just posted in the Slack channel from James Montz. FRSecure CISSP barbecue this year? Yes. The answer to that is yes.
I mean, barbecue.
That's all I know. I don't need excuses to do that.
Barbecue.
I just do it because I want to. All right, so CISSP barbecue. We gotta make that. So anybody who comes to Edina, Minnesota, which is just west of Minneapolis, we'll have to do that. We'll have to do a barbecue. Kevin Dodson posted today, I would love more information on the CISSP course when it becomes available. It is available, and I will I'll follow up in the Slack with that. Page 609 HC regarding the CVSS environmental score. The acronyms for exploitability and impact all begin with M. Where does that come from? Or does it mean anything to make them easier to remember? That's a great question. I have no idea on that. I'll have to look at that.
Yes. Good questions.
Mm-hmm.
That shows that we don't always have answers either. We are always on the learning path, just like the rest of you.
So let me tell you about Google and the role that it plays in your career.
LMGTFY?
Mm-hmm.
As long as you know how to find and make sense of the information, that's what's most important. Things move too quick and too much to keep up with, right? I mean, today alone, I think my Telegram alerts have gone off at least 20 times with new, like, shockingly devastating vulnerabilities that no one's going to do anything about.
Mm-hmm. This is what, on these environmental score metrics, the M. I don't know. You guys know?
M for metrics?
What are we looking
Maybe, but
at?
we've got temporal score metrics that don't start with M's. Got exploitability, mediation. These follow. I don't know what the M stands for. I mean, it's not. You'll be fine if you
Hold
never
on,
know.
I might
I
have
would
this
assume.
in my deck. I feel like I might have covered that topic. I'm gonna look in the deck and see.
Oops, that isn't what I wanted to do. Modified.
Modified attack complexity. That makes sense.
Ah,
So regarding acronyms and exams, normally they'll spell them out because how many different definitions does MAC have?
Oh God, yes,
MAC.
right.
So yeah, they will spell them out for you on the exam. And if someone gives you a TLA you don't know, please ask.
Yeah, for sure. You guys want to do a practice test?
Why not?
Or not. All right, I'm gonna set it up. See
I love
what we
FRSecure.
Oh yeah, Clement Dupuy.
Yes,
the,
rest in peace.
Exactly.
Lost
Man.
his soul.
I think his daughter's running this now.
Yes. A daughter and volunteers.
Awesome. New quiz. Test mode, study mode.
Test mode.
Test mode, going for it. All domains, all topic. Oh, all domains, all, okay, let's do all domains. Pro, we are
Of
pros.
course.
How many can 250 questions? Okay. How many you want? 50? 25?
We could do 50, and then if we don't get that far, then we don't always have to go through them all.
All right, let's go for it. So there's lots of ways we can do this. We can either, like what Ryan and I did last week was I would take one and answer it, and then Ryan would take one and answer it. And then we would just go back and forth. The good thing is you get different perspectives from the different instructors on our logic for answering the question the way we did. The not so good thing for the instructor is it puts you on the spot of like, oh crap, this is a question I don't know the answer to. So, you know, but to your point, Ron, nobody knows everything, right? I grew up a network guy. I know networking. That's my strongest suit. Risk management is also a very strong suit for me. Software development management is not a very strong suit for me. The security models, I puke every time I read that damn chapter. So that's just the way it is. And we'll preface it that way. Do you guys want to round robin this? I'll take one, then Ryan, you take one, and Ron, you take one, and then Christoph, when he comes back, he'll take one. Let's keep
Let's do it.
through. All right. So I'll do the first one. Oh my gosh, really? Words and pictures. So my trick on these questions is I typically don't even read this part because it's usually just a bunch of fluff. The actual question is here, right? And so you can read it all if you feel more comfortable doing that. I've answered enough of these questions over the years where I just don't anymore. So the question is, looking at the diagram below, where would the certificate authority be located in this picture? So we see a whole bunch of stuff. What I'm looking for is who's validating the certificate, who's in this diagram, who's the one that's like, essentially holding the whole thing together. So it looks like we've got, what do these things represent? Okay. Well, the certificate authority would probably be in the middle. It's got the stamp on it. I think this is the certificate authority because I think this is checking maybe for the CRL to see if the certificate's valid. This is interesting.
Well,
I don't
it's
I don't like the
it's an
diagram.
envelope, not a cert. So if I'm looking at the iconography
Oh,
or
here we
the
go.
pictures,
This
right?
one.
So the cert itself looks
This one.
different.
You're right. That's it. It's the cert.
I'm actually let's see, it is down to him, over to the shop. No, well, no, because also the iconography is lacking the authoritative stamp.
Oh my gosh, you're right. So it's over here.
So if I look, I see a lot of certs. So I see a packet or an envelope, right, with the key being passed. Then I see the certs themselves being passed over to the right, where then a stamp is issued and delivered to the end site, who then sends back up the second side of the.
I don't like the diagram.
I don't either, but I think it's that upper right one, maybe.
Whatever. We did test mode. It's your turn, Ryan.
Which of the following would best be suited to oversee the development of an information security policy? System administrators, security administrators, security officers, or end users? Now, remember, it's asking me who would be best suited to oversee it, not who's currently doing it. Those are different answers. Here, we know that admins are going to administer. I'm going to go with officer as an oversight title, and therefore with the word security is the right answer. We'll find out.
Yeah, hopefully you don't see questions like this on your real exam. Like the first one, that diagram should be much more obvious on where the certificate authority is there, or there should be some definition of what these icons mean or stand for. This question is really close to splitting hairs and being wrong just in the way it is, because ultimately who should oversee the development of an information security policy would be the board of directors or the CEO, the C-level executives, not any one of these. So to Ryan's point, though, I think this is the best answer. I just don't like the question.
Agreed.
But all right, Ron, you're up.
Which of the following is used to create parody information? Ooh, can I phone a friend?
You can.
So we have to remember what is parody. And I'm going back to my network days, and that's where I might have to rely on you, Evan, as my expert on remembering what is parody. But this could either be networking or looking at these answers. This is more dealing with how disks, so RAID. So RAID. So thinking this through, finding keywords is what I do. So creating parody information. Well, process of elimination, I would say it's not Hamming code, clustering. It would either be mirroring or striping. I would say striping, because striping, the way it works is it takes a stripe along multiple disks. So I'd say the best answer is C, a striping code. What do my fellow instructors think?
The only one of these that I don't know it. I've never heard of mirror code, striping code, or clustering code. I have heard of Hamming code, and Hamming code is used for redundancy in disk drives. I'm trying to think RAID 3 or 4 where it's exclusively Hamming code, but I think it's Hamming code, but
okay,
just because I haven't heard of the others, to be honest. So it might be true. We'll go striping code because that's what you answered, but I'm guessing, I don't know that one, to be honest. All right, and Christoph, when we said that we were going to be accountable for the answers to the questions, he flaked out immediately.
I saw that. Like, where did he go?
Yeah. He's like, oh, wait, I'm going to be on the spot. I'm out. I could make a joke here, but I'm not going to because I want to stay on the level. All right, question 4. An offsite backup facility intended to operate as an information processing facility, having no computer or communications equipment, but having flooring, electrical wiring, power, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning is better known as, that would be a cold site. The hot site has everything operational. You've got, essentially it's restore the last little bits of data. Usually your RTO in a hot site is an hour or less, certainly a couple of hours or less. A warm site has, the computers are there. You may need to do some installation of some applications and final configuration. Usually, a warm site, talking an RTO of a day or two, maybe 3. And then the cold site is this: you've got the shell and nothing else there, and that's the answer. I'm sticking to it. All right,
Makes
Ryan.
sense.
All right, which of the following alternative business recovery strategies would be least reliable in a large database and online communications network environment where critical business continuity period is 7 days? So I need to continuity 7 days, alternate strategy, least reliable. So I'm looking for the negative. Reciprocal agreement has absolutely nothing to do with any of the things that you mentioned above. So I'm gonna go with reciprocal agreement is the least reliable in database recovery.
Reciprocal agreements, they do sometimes, and printing companies do a lot of reciprocal agreements. And the way it works is if one printing company gets obliterated, you've got a reciprocal agreement where another printing company agrees to take on your capacity so you stay running. So those are what reciprocal agreements are, but they're not enforceable. So if the other printing company says, yeah, no, we're not doing that, you're kind of stuck with your piece of paper.
Now, in all fairness, they did say warm site. And if the warm site stays warm and never becomes hot, then that would be right. So I have to read into this, right? I have to assume that either the reciprocal agreement is not enforceable, in which case it's the correct answer, or if the reciprocal is enforceable and the warm site never becomes hot, then the warm site actually is the least reliable. But I think it's reciprocal. I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah, I agree.
Ron, I mean,
Reciprocal, because there's no guarantee. At least with a warm site, it's something you control. With reciprocal, it's okay, we'll agree, but what if 2 reciprocal sites are hit at the same time? Power outage for the whole city, then not reliable there. So
warm
yeah,
site's relative. I mean, if I'm in Mexico, it's going to be warmer than it is here in Minnesota.
very true.
But
There was a question in chat about using the quiz mode to explain the answers as we go along. I'll leave that up to you.
it's easy change.
Let's just go start over. No, I don't want to save my quiz because I think we got all of our answers wrong.
Wait, I knew the answer to that question though. Darn it.
I know that one. I know when I saw SI model, I was like, oh, I want this one.
Right. Oh.
Only you guys get excited about that.
In quiz mode now, or
Yes.
study mode.
Okay, so what is the most correct choice below when talking about the steps to resume normal operation at the primary site after the green light has been given by the salvage team? You moves items, you move items back to the same order as the categories documented in your plan. So most correct choice, talking about steps. But it's not B, least critical should be moved back first. Operation may be carried by a completely different team than the disaster recovery team. I don't think that's good either. The most critical operations are moved from the alternate site to primary sites before others. I would say it is D, the most critical operations moved, because resuming normal operation at the primary after green light. So you're allowed to go back to your primary site. You move back what's most critical first. Where do you find what is most critical is the next question.
And what do you think?
It's all about those critical ops. It's always about the critical operations. What makes the business money? That's the first thing I pay attention to.
I'm going to go against you guys, but I'll choose your answer, but I think it's this one, the least critical first.
Oh, wait. Yes, I see how you're looking at it. Okay, so
You're
the other
up and
way to
running,
look at this.
so you get the least critical things back in the alternate or in the primary site, so that you validate that it works before you move those critical assets.
Yep, yes. So
but we're gonna go with that. So,
Nope.
Yep. Yep. No, he's right. He's right.
I was
See,
reading
and
too
that's
much into
these
it.
questions will get you. You
Mhm.
got to read them a couple times.
Mhm.
I was still hung up on calling in a salvage team, which means it's been a bad day for everybody.
yeah. Sean Harris, man, that's another person I miss.
Mhm.
He's written epic books. Great. All right, my turn. The control measures that are intended to reveal the violations of security policy using software and hardware are associated with. So these are intended to reveal. So this would be a detective control, right? We're not trying to prevent anything where something has already happened. We need to be able to see it. So revealing the violations is a detective control. I know that right away. And if we're talking software and hardware, those are technical controls. They're not physical or administrative. So the violations of the policy using hardware and software to reveal violations is detective technical. So that's the way I usually approach questions like this is I try to answer it and then look for it, because then that just validates what my mind is already thinking. So I see that the first one is detective technical. That's going to be my answer. But I will still review the others to make sure there's not a better one. Preventative physical, no. Detective administrative, no. Detective physical, no. So that's the answer.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, you're up, dude.
In regard to the query function of relational database operations, which of the following represent implementation procedures that correspond to each of the low-level operations in the query? Relational plan, structuring plan, database plan, query plan. So relational plan, not going to be, not structuring, not database. It's going to be the query plan, but during execution or right prior to execution, actually converts to the execution plan, but we'll go with low-level operations. I'm going to say it's query plan. Unless they're saying execute well, are they saying that structuring is execution plan?
Yeah, I don't even know what those other ones are. This is another one where it's like I haven't heard these ones before. Not to say that they're not the answer. It was like the Hamming code one. It's like I don't know what those other ones are, so I'm just going to go with the one I've heard before. So yeah, all right, Ron, you're up.
Oh, long one here. What would you call an attack where an attacker can influence the state of the resource between the check and the use? So between validation and the use. The attack can happen with shared resources, such as files, memory, variables, multi-threaded, and cause the software to perform invalid actions. The steps followed as attack are usually the following. The software checks the state of the resource using that resource. Resource's state can change between the check and the use in a way that invalidates the results of it. So what type of attack influence the state? Put time of use, time of check, or toku. I'd have to look up what TOU is, unless any of you know. Again, normally I think
time of check, time of use.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense from above.
Talk to.
Talk to me.
Talk to.
So both. Good answer.
Talk to. Yeah, that's yeah, I've done those, but I'm old, so it's time of check, time of use attacks are a lot harder nowadays. It used to take time for processors to process, and so you had more of a window to do time of check, time of use attacks. But the thought is, if you do time of check, time of use, the time of check is going to be under the context of the privileges of the application at the time. And so if I can slap code in before I get an answer back on the time of use, or before time of check, and then the application wants to use it, if I can slap something in between that, then I can run out of the context of the application. Really hard to do now, though. I couldn't do it. Application layer firewalls are commonly a host computer running proxy server software, which makes it a proxy client, proxy session, proxy system. So the host computer running proxy software. Firewall itself. Yeah, that'd be a proxy server.
Normally, I don't put the answer in the question.
True. But they know that it's not, these are the ones I always get wrong
Mhm.
because it's like obvious. And so I'm like,
Mm.
oh, it can't be that easy. So I'll talk myself out of it sometimes and be like,
True.
But yeah.
A circuit level proxy is blank when compared to an application level proxy. Slower, more secure, lower in processing overhead, more difficult to maintain. So if you're doing your proxy at the circuit, I can eliminate 2.
Mm-hmm. So if you think OSI model, the circuit level proxy up to layer 5.
Yep.
The application layer proxy all the way through 7 layers.
Right. So given the choice here, I'm going to say lower in processing overhead.
Yep, I agree completely.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is because I'm not going to be inspecting the actual data in the packet, right?
Right. Well, that and more secure. No.
Right.
No.
I could argue more difficult to maintain, however, yeah, just because more people
Yep.
understand application, but the most correct, yes.
Yep.
Okay, general philosophy for a DMZ is that, ooh, I love these old questions because we don't, DMZs are now different with cloud environments. So general philosophy, some systems on the DMZ can be compromised because they're accessible from the internet. Any system on the DMZ cannot be compromised. No. Any system on the DMZ cannot be compromised because it's not accessible. No. DMZ, so think about those words. Going along with me, this where is the DMZ? Between the internet and the internal network, demilitarized zone. Think of between North and South Korea, if you will. So you keep in mind, and I generally for quiz test taking, I don't like the word any because that means any or all, which generally is incorrect. So I'm thinking it's the first one. Some systems can be, you kind of make the assumption like Bastion host that a system in the DMZ can potentially be compromised because they are internet accessible. That's why they're in a protected segment. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I think if Christoph was here, he would tell you any system connected to the internet can be compromised.
You're right.
Well, yeah, this is one of those
so
classic ones where
D,
you can.
yeah, D, yeah.
This
Didn't
is one
read
of those
all
classic
through.
ones where you can eliminate 2, right?
Mhm.
You know the 2 in the middle.
Yep.
No, the vendor told me that second one was true. Vendor told me that.
Well, it's
Yeah.
only if you're running invisible processes.
Right.
Oh, okay. That's right.
No, yep, D. I read too fast.
All right. Which of the following elements of telecommunications is not used in assuring confidentiality? Data encryption services. That's one of the functions of encryption is confidentiality. The 3, right? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The one that doesn't get covered with encryption is availability. Network authentication services doesn't really assure, could maybe, depending on how you apply it. Passwords, we use that for authentication, which I assume could probably translate into confidentiality. Network security protocols, I dig those. Man, this is a tough one because it's going to be how you apply any one of these. So I know data encryption services is definitely not the answer here. And I think network security protocols is, damn. I don't like the question.
No.
All right, I'm going to go passwords.
Passwords.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
So
the
one thing.
least right.
Mhm. Having written exam questions, we really try to avoid the word not in a test question because first of all, it's easy to miss and yeah, it can be open to too much open to interpretation. So hopefully if you're taking the CISSP or other similar exam, you won't see a word question with the word not in it.
Ryan.
What is the primary focus of using redundant array of inexpensive disks or RAID level 0? maximizing usage of hard disk space to implement integrity, to provide fault tolerance and protection against file server hard disk crashes, to improve system performance. Level 0 does not give me fault, so to improve system performance.
Correct. Yep. So RAID 0 for the students is striping. That's it. No parity. So there is no redundancy. And actually, it detracts from redundancy because now any one of those disks fails, the array is failed. There's no fault tolerance. So, and then RAID 1, right? These are the ones you're going to have to know for the test. RAID 0, striping, no parity. RAID 1, mirroring, very expensive in terms of disk space, which used to be a bigger problem than it is today because disk space is cheap now. And then you'll definitely need to know RAID 5, which would be striping with parity, and then the combinations of those, right? So I say like a RAID 10, well, that would be a mirrored RAID 5 or RAID 0 array, right? So knowing those combinations, you probably won't need to know RAID 3 or 4, which is just different ways that parity's calculated and handled. Nobody uses RAID 3 or 4.
Right.
But
Not even mentioned in the book.
yeah, they used to. They used to mention it in the book, and you'd have to remember it, but not anymore.
Ooh, which of the following represents the best programming? So we're definitions: high cohesion, high coupling. I'm like you, Evan. I'm not necessarily a coder. So I'd have to go back to my definition of what is cohesion and coupling.
We definitely want cohesion, right?
Yeah.
Cohesion's a good thing. Coupling can be thought of as dependency.
Yep.
So if we're thinking about what is best, we probably want to maximize our cohesion while minimizing our dependency, because if we need to make a change or adjustment, the more coupled we are, the harder it can be to do that.
Yep. And this will explain that more. So cohesive just means that they basically play well together, and coupling means how dependent they are on each other. Yeah. I do know that. Don't ask me to code. Oh, I know this one. So IP version 4, 32-bit, the 100, but just, to add some value to the question, 128 bits, that's your IP version 6 IP address. 16 and 64 don't even apply to either one of these. But if you remember the MAC address is 48 bits, 24 and 24. The first 24 bits are used to identify the manufacturer. The last 24 are, so it's called an OUI, but you might see that stuff on the test, but this one's easy. I like the easy ones. Keep them coming. It makes me look so smart. I love it.
To understand the whys in crime, many times it is necessary to understand mom, which of the following is not a component of mom: motivation, methods, means, opportunities. So M stands for motivation, because what motivates the criminal? Because if you're trying to find the why, right? So methods tell us the hows. Opportunities, though, might feed into the why. And means or methods? Motivation, methods, and opportunity. Motivation, means, and opportunity. I'm going to go, if I recall mom correctly, it's motivation, means, and opportunity. So the whys, it is necessary to understand which is not a component of mom.
I think it's motivation, opportunities, and methods.
Yeah, means is not. Yeah, means is not.
I think.
No, it's
It's methods.
It's methods.
You had it right. You had it right the first time. Yeah, motivation.
See, you talk yourself out of a question. Be careful about that.
Yep. And so let's look at the show the answer. To understand the whys in crime, many times it's necessary to understand the motivations, opportunities, and means. Motivations are who and why of a crime. Opportunities are the where and when of the crime. The means pertains to the capabilities a criminal would need to be successful.
Method.
And this is one of those things where in reality, this is good for book stuff, but in reality, we're often much more concerned about the methods. Those are called attack vectors, and we share that data freely. Indicators of compromise would be, fit right into methods. So if you ever see IOCs, we use those in the practical sense all the time. So this isn't really a good practical question. It's more of a theory question, in my opinion. Because methods to me as an incident investigator, when I'm wearing that hat, super important.
Yeah, the how is way more important to me than the why.
Yeah.
And it's something that's observable. The capabilities of attackers, you can imply what those are, but oftentimes you don't know. But I can see their methods. That's why we set up honeypots. That's why we share information. I can protect against the methods. I can't necessarily protect against the means because I don't know what you're capable of.
And also with that crime meaning you're breaking a law, which means you'll have law enforcement helping you, working alongside you, telling you, investigating the why. For us, we just find facts. We don't look into often that why, because then that leads to too much bias.
In so many incident responses, we get that. That's one of the common questions is, well, who did this? It's a natural question. Who did this? Well, that requires attribution. And attribution is almost always a waste of your time. Because what are you going to do if you did find out who it was? You find out it's some, attacker in Russia. Okay, what are you going to do with that? You just spent, a couple $100,000 on the investigation to point that out for you, and it's useless. And even then, you won't know who is actually behind the keyboard. You can tie it back to a system, but not the person usually.
That's where law enforcement comes in. Let's see, am I up?
Yep.
Almost all types of detection, so detection, permit a system sensitivity be increased or decreased during the inspection process. Okay, the system sensitivity is increased, such as biometric authentication system. So this is that crossover error rate we're looking at. The system becomes increasingly selective and has a possibility of generating, so more sensitive, the more reading through the. So you will have more rejection. So no, it's not. See, yeah, higher false rejection rate. Yep.
And this question, the cool thing too is the more you learn about security, the more you can be critical of people's questions. And I get that we come off that way, but literal means you do need to be literal in this business oftentimes. So here, almost all types of detection permit, and then you're talking about a preventative control. So the logic here in this question is a little bit funky because a false reject or a high, or false accept rate is all about prevention. The detection piece doesn't really play into this question, just pointing it out. Oh, you only do cryptanalysis. Fine. Which of the following can best be defined as cryptanalysis technique in which the analyst tries to determine the key from knowledge of some plain ciphertext pairs? A known plain text attack, a chosen plain text attack, a known algorithm attack, which isn't really an attack, a chosen ciphertext attack. Known plain text, chosen plain text. So it's actually a chosen. So these two are the only real types of attacks, the chosen plain text and the chosen ciphertext. Here I've given, an analyst tries to determine the key from knowledge of plain text, ciphertext pairs. So that would be a chosen plain text attack, I believe. No.
I think it was known.
Oh my
plain
God.
text.
Because
I totally screwed that one up. All right, geez, Louise, let's read it.
So you know what some of the plain text is, and you can compare it against the cipher text that you're also seeing, hopefully to because algorithms are always known, but to be able to determine what is the key that developed the plain text or the ciphertext from the plain text.
And I screwed myself up. It was the known, it was the chosens that were the not real attacks, and the knowns were. Yeah. All right, cool. Okay, that one didn't go well for me.
How many rounds of substitution and permutations are performed by the data encryption standard algorithm? Substitution and permutation, standard DES. I want to say 64, but I think that's wrong. Shit, I don't know who uses this anymore. These numbers aren't big enough. That's the problem.
Right.
I'm gonna say 16.
It's kind
Could
of
be totally wrong.
Yep. Yeah. That's the problem with it. Not enough.
Right.
So focus on the word 16 stages or rounds. That's what that permutations
right.
means.
Yep. All right.
At what stage of the application development process should the security department become involved? After it goes live. No, just kidding.
I know, right? Yeah, when the regulator asks for the pen test.
Right. So really the idea throughout the process, but what stage should initially become involved? So during requirements, what are going to be the security requirements?
Save you money now, talk to us sooner.
Yes.
Well, that's the theory too. I mean, something that's insecure at the core will always be insecure. So if you don't start with security at the beginning, you're never going to be able to secure it. So if you don't do it until like unit testing or once it's in production, you're not going to be able to go back to secure it because you didn't. There are core pieces and elements of that software that you'll never be able to get secure without rewriting. What backup type run at regular intervals would take the most time to complete a restoration? So full backup would be the fastest because essentially I'm just restoring the one tape, right? From one tape or one backup media. The differentials is the full restore. Everything since the last full backup, right? So that would be 2 tapes, 2 drives to restore. Incrementals would be every single time an incremental backup is run or a full backup, you're going to be doing the backup from that time. So if I was going to say my last full backup was Sunday night and I needed to restore on Friday with incremental, and I do backups every day, incrementals backups every day, I would need the last full, so I would need the Sunday and every incremental up until the last one. Whereas a differential, it'd be the last full and the last differential, right? So what backup type, and it's important to know that, and then go back and, for me, then I would go back and read the question again, which one fits again? So what backup type run at regular intervals would take the most time to complete restoration? Well, in this case, it would be incremental, because I'd have to use the last full and every incremental up until that point.
You got it.
You can go, they gave me one I could answer again. I like it. Makes me feel smart about myself.
Which of the following is not a disadvantage of single sign-on? The cost associated with single sign-on development can be significant. SSO improves an administrator's ability to manage user account and authorization to all associated system. SSO can be a single point of failure and total compromise of an organizational asset. Support for all major operating system environment is difficult. Who the hell wrote that last one? Which of the following is not a disadvantage? So we're looking for a positive.
Yeah. So you're looking for what actually is an advantage then, right?
Yeah. And I would say begrudgingly, it improves the administrator's ability to manage the account.
Yep.
Although at no point did they say
Logic.
correctly. Words matter.
Or well. Yep.
Which of the following type of a computer network are a variation of a LAN, local area network, and are dedicated to connecting storage storage devices to servers and other computing devices. So we know it's not a MAN, metropolitan area network, or PAN, personal area network, or local area network, SAN, storage area network.
I concur. All right, which of the following device in frame relay WAN technique, the question, is a service provider device that does the actual data transmission and switching in the frame relay cloud? So there's going to be two types that you're in frame relays. Chances are most of you, unless you're using frame relay now, you're probably never going to use it. But the two pieces is data terminal equipment and data circuit terminating equipment. So DCE and DTE, DME and DLE are not things in frame relay. So then the question is, can you remember where the data termination equipment or the data circuit the data terminal equipment or data circuit equipment? So the data terminal equipment is what's actually on-prem. So it's this one, the DCE.
So in your experience, would they actually spell out what these acronyms are on the test?
They used to.
Yeah.
I took my test, dude, back when it was fill in the blanks. I don't remember.
Oh, me
It was
too, right?
pencil.
I think
Hi,
we
guys.
usually do.
We all know you all took it with a chisel, stone tablet. Let's be
I'm
honest.
like with our dinosaurs.
I'm right behind you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And once in a while, though, this is one of the frustrations a little bit with the CISSP is you can be an awesome information security person and not know squat about frame relay. It's just not, it's not a fundamental thing for people anymore. So it's a little bit of a frustration. MPLS would be more. I mean, that's more relevant than frame relay, which.
Yeah, and even that's going away.
Yep.
Which type of control is concerned with avoiding occurrence of risk? CISO.
Right.
Compensating controls, deterrent controls, preventive controls, or detective. Concerned with avoiding? Well, then I want preventative, because anything after that is me dealing with the event.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this question, you could really read deterrent controls into this one too, because the whole point of the deterrent is to avoid the occurrence as well, right?
And I don't know why we call preventative and I mean, deterrent is to prevent, but it's to prevent more of the, generally that's a human control. That's a, I'm going to fire you if you do this control, and preventative is more technical, but to me, they're both preventative.
They are, for sure, but they break them out. Oh, here we go.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so your corporate senior leadership asks you to develop access control in a well-organized, appropriately documented program. So the program and measures must be properly designed and put into policy that your company's senior leadership will implement. Okay, documented like program meaning procedure, not I was thinking code for some reason. One common approach to designing access control is to using categories of access to effectively document and communicate policy to the user community. Controls will be logically prevent users from violating. So technical or logical controls which can detect when suspicious activity occurs on a network and report this to administrators are called, we know it's not going to be repudiating controls. That's when to valid, it's kind of long, validating, but can someone repudiate? And this kind of gets to previous question with deterrent controls. These will detect suspicious activity, so deterrent controls. Compensating controls you have in place. When you can't have a main control, you need to use something else for one reason. So detective controls, so we're detecting.
Yeah, and they actually give you the answer.
That's true.
And
We have to be careful.
Right.
Sometimes
No, yeah, absolutely. Well, and also be careful talking yourself out of answers. I do that all the time. I'm like, well, and then you're reading way more into it than you should. So which strategy offers zero downtime with load balancing and is the most expensive option? Dual data center, cloud-based hot site. dual external hot site, remote hot site. Man, which strategy offers zero downtime with load balancing? That would have to be dual data center because there's no failover. Hot sites, there are failovers. You have an RTO, typically of an hour or two for that. And all these three actually are all hot sites. So almost do dual data center. And you see, you notice I didn't read the whole question. You can, but 9 times out of 10, that's a test taking strategy for me is I never read it. I just read the question. What are you actually asking? And then if it's not obvious, I might go back to the full verbiage, but probably not. Risk superlative. That sticks out.
All right. I'm not reading all that. This risk management principle is used as a means to pass the risk onto another entity outside of your company. Risk super laxative. Nope,
Yes.
that's not it. Risk transmission, risk transfer, or risk mitigation. When I make it someone else's problem, I have transferred the risk. Most commonly, this is your cybersecurity insurance.
It can be any type of insurance, car insurance. Which of the following is true about a three-headed dog named Kerberos? Let's see. It encrypts the data after a ticket is granted, but passwords are exchanged in plain text. No passwords. Utilizes public key cryptography. And by public key, do they mean symmetric? Depends upon symmetric ciphers. Yes, it does. It is a second-party authentication system. So I know it's not A because we know, because Kerberos is still in use today. Passwords are exchanged in plain text. Public key cryptography, I mean, that's assuming public-private key, which would mean symmetric versus asymmetric. I would say the best answer is C, depends on symmetric ciphers.
I concur. Joe wants to communicate a secret message by hiding the message in a photograph. That's steganography. Rotography, I don't know what that is. Steganography, that's the answer. Polymorphism, which is when there's polymorphism and polyinstantiation, which is how applications change, or viruses, malware often changes how it works. And then photography is not a thing either. But hiding a message, and it's not actually encryption, it's hiding a message.
Obfuscation.
So, yep.
And since I think Ryan stepped away for a moment, I can take his spot. So which of the following techniques would have best prevented this downtime? So now we actually need to read the question. Technician from an external vendor connected his laptop to a manufacturing control network without authorization, accidentally infected a key system on the network and caused downtime. Some manufacturing equipment costing whatever. Would have best prevented. Minimize the number of external contractors. That's always not possible. Update the antivirus. No. Postcards. Definitely. Or a SCADA access control system. So we're talking about manufacturing. Those are industrial control systems, ICS. SCADA is a type of an industrial control system. We need better access control. So this person should not have had access without authorization to begin with. So I would say D, SCADA access control system is the best answer. There we go.
Excellent day.
All right.
Okay. Oh, Ryan, you get GDPR. Enjoy.
Oh, good. The General Data Protection Regulation is an EU law on data protection and privacy for all the citizens of the European Union and European Economic Area. It addresses the export of personal data outside of the EU and EEA. The GDPR superseded the Data Protection Directive on May 25th, 2018. Supervisory authority would be granted investigative powers based on which of the following reason? They are authorized by the EU law itself. After reporting to the local law enforcement authority, they were granted authority. A complaint was deposited against the company based on findings within a report from the auditor. They would be granted investigative powers believe they are authorized by the law.
Concur. The law.
Is this you, Evan, or me?
Well, Ryan dropped and he came back, so we got the order mixed up a little bit now. I think it's Christoph's turn, and we'll just sit here and wait.
I can take this one. I know, Ron, you're running short on time soon, so I can pick this one up.
Oh, Ron, you have to leave?
Yes.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for your help. This CISSP mentor program. I hope we can count on you again next time. I'm thinking we might do another one in the fall.
Okay.
And maybe invite a couple more instructors too. The good thing is the content has been developed for this CBK, so we won't have to die again.
Right. We'll be able to jump right into it. So thank you again for having me as a part of your adventure. So glad to be here. For those who have joined us on the chat, so great to get to know all of you, and we'll just see you on Slack or wherever I get to see you.
All right. Thanks, man.
Sure.
Okay. So this question, there's a lot of words again. U.S. government and business data sensitivity labeling are different, and most business organizations use which of the following labels. From experience, this is about data classification and labels that I would apply to data types. Typically in private industry, it would be confidential, internal, and public. So I'm sort of looking for that or something similar to that. Private, classified, confidential, and restricted. Those are typically the ones that throw me off a little bit here are classified and restricted. Classified's a government term, typically. Confidential, sensitive, private, proprietary, public. That could fit because I've got confidentiality or confidential and public there. Unclassified, secret, top secret, that's definitely government. Public secret, top restricted, that's definitely government. Now, so the answer here is B, but I'll just tell you from practical experience, that's too many classifications. 3 classifications is plenty, right? Because what you don't want to do is confuse the users on classifications. So having 5 classifications is too much for most users. 3 they can get their hands around and keep it as simple as possible and yet still be effective. So I would, just as an advisor, I wouldn't go with 5 classifications, but it's me. So hopefully I understand. So classified, top secret, secret, restricted, those are all government words.
Well, they are, and classified is what happens, right? So it's funny. The document itself is referred to as classified, but that's not actually its data classification. It's classified as either secret or top secret or the other things that come after that. But the unclassified means the data has not yet been assigned a classification or has previously had a classification that was removed. That's declassifying.
Yep, very true.
Those are the funnest documents to read, by the way, the ones that have been declassified. Which of the following protocol uses serial interface for communication between 2 computers in WAN technology? X25, point-to-point protocol, frame relay, ISDN. Okay, so using a serial interface in a WAN, and I'm not the network wizard, but P2P is software. X25 is not a thing for that. Frame, I'm going to say ISDN, but it could also be frame relay, or I could be wrong about both. No, it is point to point. Oh, wait, so it's using a virtual serial interface. I'm thinking old school. I'm thinking of, remember the fat serial plugs?
Oh yeah, I knew where you were going. And that's why I sort of went in that order, because you talked through all of those and you discounted the point-to-point one like almost immediately. And I was like, but yeah, it's.
Because I know it in a different context. This question is from the 1400s.
Thanks for calling me old, brother. My God.
I love you.
Guys, here is, so the key itself is 56. Some people sometimes argue it's 64, but it's 56.
Well, it says effective size, not total size.
Yeah, yep. So DES is a 56-bit key, obviously. Your default for AES would be this 128. But they can also use different key sizes, 192, 256. But yeah, there you go.
512 if you're doing it right. If any server in the cluster crashes, processing continues transparently. However, the cluster suffers some performance degradation. This implementation is sometimes called a server farm, client farm, host farm, cluster farm. Only cluster of servers. I don't think I've ever heard it called a cluster farm. I've heard of server farms.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't heard of host farms or cluster farms.
No, and this, you probably won't see this question on the exam, I would assume.
I hope not. This is silly.
Mm-hmm. Which of the following is a strategic risk? Credential sniffing, stolen passwords, inline USB keystroke logging, antiquated login technology. Well, the only one here that really fits into a strategic that isn't more tactical would be the antiquated login technology, because I'd have to have a strategy to replace that, to make that happen. I have to get budget, I have to plan for it. There's a lot more that goes into it. Inline USB keystroke logging, these are more just tactical day-to-day things we need to protect against. And so I'm going there.
Yeah. Which of these threats to web application occurs when malicious JavaScript, VBScript, ActiveX, or other code is entered? I gotta move the thingy. Is entered as unvalidated user input and results in dangerous dynamic content. All right, what malicious code, web server attacks against Apache cross-site. So I'm going to go with cross-site scripting, which is the result of a web server being misconfigured, can also be the result of using IIS for your web server.
Right. And this is like, if you look at the
Number
OWASP,
one.
if you look at OWASP, I mean, every single year since like forever, the 1400s, has been this unvalidated or invalidated user input, you know, and it comes in two flavors. One is not having bounds checking, which means you can type a billion characters into a field, right? Which is bad because then you've got buffer overflows potentially and all kinds of funky things. The other type of invalidated user input is if I'm only expecting text, then restrict the input to text. You know, don't allow integers and other data types that aren't required. That also, you know, can lead to some funky stuff. So it's crazy how invalidated user input, crappy coding is still. I mean, if there's one part of your code you better get right, it's every single interface into that code, which would be all your data inputs, including your APIs. Right?
Agreed. And I would even go one further. Data typing. So I ran into this quick real world here. I ran into a scenario once where the data type no longer held to be valid. So we were expecting character-based data type, and there was valid data that was numeric in nature, and it broke the system. So from that day forward, the habit became match to the data type as best as you can, but then validate the string before you pass it on. Do that special character check, and you can write a single function that does this, by the way. That'll look for those open quotes, will look for, you know, patterns of web URLs and other things that would be indicative of an attack, and you can actually catch that at input time prior to passing it through and creating a problem.
Yep, 100%.
But yes, a number can be in a name. I never knew that was possible until I ran into a scenario where it was completely legit.
So, you know, again, I start here. Which of the following law pertains to healthcare and how to protect sensitive patient health information from being disclosed without the patient's consent or knowledge? That's HIPAA. Sarbanes-Oxley is for publicly traded companies. ABSA corporate guidelines is not an actual law. TR 19 or technical reference 19, not familiar. That's the answer. But you could read all the blah, blah, blahs, but oftentimes you'll just find it here.
In the physical security context, a security door equipped with an electronic lock configured to ignore the unlock signals sent from the building emergency access control system in the event of an issue, fire, intrusion, power failure, would be in which of the following configurations? Fail open, fail safe, fail secure, fail soft. So it is configured to ignore unlock signals. So it's definitely configured the wrong way. This would be fail secure, which when it comes to human life is never the correct answer. Always fail open. Always when it's a physical thing, it's life on the line, human safety, health, wellness. Fail open, take risk.
This wouldn't pass code in anywhere in the US anyway. Which of the following is an advantage of prototyping? So prototyping is getting something kind of mocked up right away that you can kind of get your hands around and understand conceptual stuff. So prototyping, strong internal controls are easier to implement. Change control is often less complicated with prototype systems. Prototype systems can provide significant time and cost savings. It ensures the functions or extras are not added to the intended system. So, and the best advantage here, I think, it would be significant time and cost savings. And stronger internal controls would not be necessarily easier to implement. Change control, less complicated, maybe. Normally we don't.
I was just saying, you're not at change control.
Yeah. Ensures that the functions or extras are not added. Sometimes we prototype to keep scope creep in check. So I don't know. I'm gonna say it's C, but I'm not positive.
Good answer.
Thank you.
In reference to the cloud architecture, this entity acts as a go-between, being a middleman between the cloud customer and the service provider. What is the name of this entity? Cloud Access Security Mediator. Oh, I like the sound of that.
That sounds cool.
Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google, Wholesale Cloud Broker, or Cloud Access Security Broker. I'm going to go with CISSP, the Cloud Access Security Broker.
Exactly. Which the following attacks could capture network user passwords? That would be sniffing. But we can go through this. Smurfing isn't really attack, it's Smurf attack. It's not smurfing. Smurf is the replication attack, or not a reflection attack. So yeah, that's what that is. Data diddling sounds cool. Not sure what it is. IP spoofing, it's spoofing, so it's different.
So I also didn't know what that was, so I had to Google it. Data diddling is a type of cybercrime in which data is altered as it is entered into the computer system, most often by a data entry clerk or computer virus.
Don't diddle, please.
Yeah,
no data diddling.
No, don't do that. Which of the following tools is used to stress test applications? Users. Firewalling and IDS devices by sending large numbers of packets at them, including randomly generated or malformed packets. Wireshark, Snort, ISIC or IP stack integrity checker, security onion. Stress testing by DDoS. I mean, you can do that with Wireshark. Generally, I mean, Snort's gonna sniff. I'm gonna go with the I'm gonna say the integrity checker, but I also feel like onion could be the correct answer. But yeah.
We just call it a stress test. There's all kinds of things you can use to stress test, but what is called the access protection system that limits connections by calling back the number of a previously authorized location. Typically, we'd use these in modems, right? We don't use them much anymore, but this would be a callback system. So send back forward system, that's not a thing. Callback systems, that's actually the answer. Callback forward systems, also not really a thing. Send back system, that one's easy. And it would just be a security mechanism. It would protect against war dialing typically when we were doing those things back in the 80s and 90s. Where it wouldn't allow a connection, it would receive the connection, start the negotiation, and then disconnect and then call you back. and then you would pick, your system would pick up the phone at that number and you'd establish the connection. So with war dialing, you would just find modems dangling out there and there'd be no callback. So you just connect. The callback was meant to kind of stop those things a little bit.
And there
The way
are
to-
still some
the way to
modems out
defeat-
there.
Right, and the way to defeat callback systems is to spoof your number. You know, you could potentially do that.
Which of the following is used to monitor network traffic or to monitor host audit logs in real time to determine violations of system security policy that have taken place? Intrusion management systems, compliance monitoring system, compliance validation system, intrusion detection system. So it's monitoring network or host, and it's doing audit logs in real time to determine. So that would be an intrusion detection system, because we are looking for deviations of expected behavior or expected policy. And when it's detected, that, which is different than an intrusion prevention system. So you have your IPS, which is restricting and preventing intrusion attempts. But if one is successful, then the IDS, and in a host, technically it would be HIDS or host intrusion detection, which is different than just IDS, which traditionally is network based.
Yeah, the two types, you sort of mentioned it.
HIDS and NIDS.
Well, no, you sort of mentioned the anomaly based and the signature based. You know, because you'll probably see questions about, you know, which is prone, or something around which is prone to more false positives, false negatives. You know, difference between false positives and false negatives. You know, so knowing that a signature based would be less prone to false positives, but it's also more prone to false negatives, meaning attack traffic circumvents it without it knowing it because it didn't match the signature, whereas those anomaly based. Now, the way most IDS systems today work, it's a combination of those things. Back in the day, you had to tune when you bought a new IDS system, and the leader back then would have been ISS, would have been the leader probably. It would take 9 months to tune an IDS system before it was really functional. You'd have to tune out, you know, all these alerts. I don't know if that still happens with IDS as much. It seems like they've kind of got that down a little bit better.
With that, yeah, but they just moved the problem to the AI systems. Alert fatigue is still very much a real thing, and tuning is still very much.
And I learned so much from tuning. This is my question. You were going to take my question?
Oh yeah, well,
my
I'm
question?
just eager. I'm eager to help.
I see an IP address, man. You're not taking this one. Well, unless it's hard, then you can have it. You're testing a web server on your internal network before moving it to the DMZ, but when you pull it up on http://127.0.0.1, that's the loopback, you get a certificate error message that says the security certificate presented by this website was issued for a different website address. That's because you went to the loopback and you didn't go to the IP address that was assigned, or the domain name. So which answer best explains the likely problem? The certificate is damaged. The certificate is not assigned to an IP address. The certificate is expired. The domain name registration expired. So the answer here is the certificate is not assigned to an IP address. It's the domain name. It validates the identity and the holder of the domain, not the IP. Because you can change IPs all the time. If you tied it to an IP, you'd have to get a new certificate all the time. So there you go.
There are 3 tenants on which information security sits. Which of the following
Not
is
if you don't
not-
pay your rent. If you don't pay your rent, you're no tenant.
That's right, you're a bad tenant. Which of the following is not one of the 3 basic tenets of information security? Invisibility, oh, bless their hearts, availability, integrity, or confidentiality. Well, what's our triad? Now, vendors might tell you invisibility is the 4th tenet. Don't believe them.
No, they lie. If an employee loses their device and it contains unencrypted business and personal data, what is the best option below to protect the data from disclosure? GPS tracking, that'll find it for you, but it won't protect anything. Remote wiping, that's probably the answer. Remote device monitoring, same thing. Encryption would have been the best option, but you've already told me it's unencrypted, so encrypting it now that it's gone, remote wiping is going to be your best option now.
Which of the following is not a best practice when hardening systems or bastion hosts? Deploying a network intrusion detection system, limit services, change default passwords, or apply patches. Not a best practice. Deploying the NIDs is not, given this list, going to be the best practice.
Yeah.
You might want to do that after you do all these other things.
Well, NIDS again is network, right? So we're talking about hardening a system, so that would be host too. So that's a good tell. You know, and these would all be host things that you would do.
Yeah, but
NIDS.
But one could make the argument that networking is now gone software based and therefore is in the sphere of a system.
Nope, not buying it. Not buying it. Which of the following answers is an arrangement between your organization and the provider that includes guarantees? I love that word. For mean time between failure, mean time to recovery, and system uptimes. SLA? Yeah. But what does SLA stand for then? I guess service level agreement or service line agreement? It stands for service level agreement. The warranted period of expected use, it's not a thing. Guaranteed uptime, that's also not a thing. I mean, people will tell you it's a thing, but it's
not a thing.
It's not a thing. It's going to be your SLA. RAID.
Ooh, which RAID disk configuration uses 3 separate physical drives, byte level striping, plus 1 additional physical drive for parity data? So a total of 4 drives in the config, 3 that are usable for information, and 1 that is used for parity. Well, let's see. RAID 1 is striping. It has parity.
No, RAID 1 mirroring.
RAID 1 striping 5. Yes. Okay. Yep.
RAID 0.
So you remember earlier when you said you really don't need to know much about RAIDs 2, 3, and 4?
That's why I was nodding my head at this. I'm like, really?
So to be honest, I have no idea because I've never engaged this. I'm going to take a wild ass guess and say 4 because there's 4 drives. I'm probably very wrong.
You have a dedicated, here you have a dedicated parity drive used to rebuild the rest of the array. So, yeah,
Nope.
I don't know.
3? Oh, okay. Have you ever seen this in the wild?
No.
Okay.
Nope. It was never functional.
It
Really.
seems cost prohibitive and a disaster to reassemble.
Yeah, most people went, and I also have not seen RAID 0 in production without another RAID on top of it, without a controller doing a mirror on the RAID zeros. But RAID 1 was super popular back in the day, and RAID 5. So those were the 2 big dogs. 2, 3, and 4 were like, nobody did it.
Well, and it just to belabor this a little bit more, if your parity drive dies, you're hosed.
It's true.
Completely.
Yeah, and another reason why it didn't really take off is it was expensive. It was to dedicate an entire drive. Storage was super expensive back in the day. People who are newer to this kind of take that for granted, right? You never really knew storage as being expensive. But storage,
I remember thinking that 500 megabytes was all I would ever need in my entire lifetime of using a computer.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the big difference between RAID 3 and RAID 4. So RAID 3 is block level striping. RAID 3 is the byte level. So if you do actually go there, because functionally they have the same thing. It's you have a dedicated parity drive, but whatever. And RAID 2 was not now. It was always obsolete. But anyway, I can't guarantee you're not going to see this on the exam. RAID 3 and RAID 4, because they did have it on the exam back when I took it. I don't know if it's been removed. So it might be worth, even if you do see it on the exam, it'll be 1 question. So how much horsepower and mental power do you want to put into memorizing for 1 question? It's up to you. Which of the following assertions is not true about pattern matching and anomaly. Oh, see, I just sort of was talking about this. So
Mhm.
pattern matching is also signature based. We would call that signature based. It's got a database of patterns, right? And if something matches the pattern, it triggers the alert. Anomaly detection is usually it establishes some sort of baseline. So it's got to sit on the network for a little while, build that baseline. And then when it sees deviations, and you can tune that, it would be another application of what we call clipping levels. Clipping levels typically though are for logs if something exceeds, but anomaly detection, if you see something outside of the norm, it's going to send an alert for that. So in this case, in which of the following assertions is not true about pattern matching and anomaly detection in intrusion detection? The first one, pattern matching IDS can only identify known attacks. That's actually true. That's in the database. It's a known attack. Anomaly detection tends to produce more data. Let's see, would that be true? It could be true. Because you're gonna have to build those baselines, deviations from those baselines. I don't know, come back to that one. An anomaly-based engine develops baselines of normal, I just defined that. Baselines of normal traffic activity and throughput and alerts and deviations, that's absolutely true. Stateful matching scans. What? For attack signatures by stateful matching scans for attack signatures by analyzing individual packets instead of traffic streams. That's not even relevant, so I'm going with that one. So it helps to know what these things are. And I debated on this one a little bit because it could, I mean, but you could make it not. So, whatever. This one is the obvious answer though, because it just ain't true.
Which of the following enables the person responsible for contingency planning to focus risk management efforts and resources in a prioritized manner only on the identified risks? Residual risk assessment, security control, baseline. All right, which of the following enables the person? Yep, contingency planning. We're going to focus on risk management efforts and resources in a prioritized manner only on the identified risks. Well, that would then be risk assessment, because that's how you identify your risks.
Yeah, I'd agree. And for people,
because residual is a result of what is after the fact. Security controls are how you're going to deal with it, huh?
Yeah, residual risk is leftover risk, right? Once you account for the controls. Inherent risk is risk just associated with being, doesn't account for any of the controls. So those inherent and residual risk, you'll hear that a lot. Yep. I dig your flow, Ryan.
Well, and Security Studio does make one heck of a powerful risk assessment tool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Well, we basically got 100% right because I changed all our wrong ones to right. So well done. Very well done.
Here, here. Cheers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think what benefits people the most from taking the exam. So a lot of the stuff you just need to memorize, right? Talk about security models. You talk about some of the certification stuff like Red Book and Orange Book and TCSEC and all that stuff, common criteria. But a lot of this stuff, I mean, it's cool that the CISSP seems like it's getting more and more relevant to actual real life stuff. So you can take some of these questions and you can actually think it through. What would be the answer? Because we did that a lot on, when we went through, I noticed as we were going through ourselves, logically working through it, even though you may not, even though the wording on the question might have been wrong or messed up, you can still feel the logic out and come to the right answer most of the time.
Well, and it's that risk manager hat, right? So as I'm looking at this, I'm always keeping in the front of my mind risk manager outcome. So what am I looking for? That is most in line with a risk management principle or philosophy. Even if I don't understand the tech or don't remember, all the various acronyms and things. I mean, it's a lot. You guys will fare better taking Evan is just a superstar and he does this every single year. So I'm pretty sure he actually just has the CBK in the back of his head. But for the rest of us, some of this stuff falls out after a while. Some of this stuff, if you don't use it, it just kind of, it's not relevant. It goes away. But make sure, study, keep it fresh, keep it sharp, do your best, eat well, rest well.
But a good point came to mind when you mentioned that. I think the more you give back to the community, the better security person it makes you. You know what I mean? So even though going through the CISSP, 13th year or something, every time I go through it, it makes me better. The thing about information security, there's all kinds of cool new acronyms, there's all kinds of sexy, blinky, lighty things, but 90+%, some huge percentage of your risk is always going to be in the basics and the fundamentals, the things that people just continually overlook, right? Things like asset management, things like risk management, things like network segmentation and isolation and the basics of TCP/IP and networking and all those things, they never change. You know what I mean? It's just logic, right? It's just, so as a practitioner, I would encourage everyone, and Ryan, you give back all the time, maybe, and I think your 3rd year here with the CISSP, but every time it rounds out your other parts, because I've seen it, as a friend, you see it round out other parts of your security knowledge and things. You're an expert on management of information security and certain parts of it, you know what I mean, that make you super duper valuable. The CISSP just, I think helps you put those things into context and stuff. But I would encourage everybody, give back to this community, right? We don't need to make money for everything. Our theory, our philosophy here is if you focus on the mission, you'll make money. If you focus on the money, you won't make the mission. So it's getting your priorities straight. Just money's not an issue if you're focused and in this game for the right reasons. And if you're not in this game for the right reasons, either find the right reason or, maybe find another place to work, because this is a service industry. We're here to help people, right? At the end of the day, when the data gets lost or stolen, nobody gives a crap, but people suffer. That's why people give a crap, right? This data belongs to somebody. Somebody suffers because it was lost or stolen, or the system's not available. And if you don't feel that, it's about serving people, man. So
well, and I'll even add to this. You can find it on Netflix, but there's a great little interview series run by David Letterman, and he was interviewing Will Smith. And Will's whole career, he was focused on money and being the biggest and the best and the baddest and all these things. And then he achieved that pinnacle. And he will tell you himself, and then I found myself empty, longing, and wanting, because it turns out this life is about more, right? And I can tell you, as somebody who gets up and lives the mission every day, the most rewarding and fulfilling, that extra 10 ounces of energy that I need to pull it through, that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from the paycheck. My bank account has never stimulated me into going all night long building decks for the CISSP class, right? My bank account doesn't do that for me. But serving all of you, and I echo what Evan says, get involved. If you don't know how to get involved, just hit us up in the Slack, tag me in the Slack channel. I have 1 million people in need of your service. That's a made up number, but many, many people in need of your service and help, no matter your expertise level. If you can spell security, I know somebody that would love to hear from you who could use and benefit from your assistance. So if you want to get involved, let us know. We'll help route you to the right places where that help can be best applied.
Yeah, for sure, man. And as you progress, just another, advice thing that I see often, and we've all struggled with it, is this thing called imposter syndrome, right? You'll run into people in this industry who are smart, right? I mean, they just know a lot about security, and sometimes they can get intimidating, especially when they're jerks, when they're assholes, you know what I mean? And there's plenty of that in our industry too. But don't let that we need each other to lift each other up. So that community thing, because I'm 30 plus years in this industry, and I still have moments where I have imposter syndrome. We all have it. We all get it. We all feel insufficient sometimes. That's when you want to reach out to people that are in your community that will lift you up, encourage you, and just kind of set you straight that nobody knows everything in this industry. You saw us take this exam, 50 questions, 30 years in, you're what, 20 some odd years in yourself. We don't know all the answers, right? That's totally okay. The name of this game is not risk elimination. The name of this game is not perfection. The name of this game is risk management. The name of this game is progress. That's what we try to do. So yeah, I just want to encourage you to, going back to the beginning, if you fail the exam, you fail the exam. Pick yourself back up. It'll make it that much sweeter when you do pass it. Now, I'm guessing most of you who take the exam will just pass it out of the gate because you took this seriously, and things came to you, whatever. But there are times when people will fail, and you pick yourself back up again and give back to the community. The community needs you. We're in this all together. And the imposter syndrome thing, it's there. I would tell you it's bullshit, but it's not, because it's there. It's a real thing.
It's a thing. You got to fight against it.
Mm-hmm.
Give it the old Stuart Smalley. Just look in the mirror and say to yourself, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me.
Dang it. Yeah. So that's we're gonna end about 15-ish minutes early tonight. It's been an honor, it's been a pleasure, to take you through the program this year. You may have noticed, early on that Brad and I didn't participate in the program this year. He had a whole bunch of other stuff to do and take care of. Don't worry about Brad. He's doing great. I talk to him on a regular basis. Hoping to have him back again the next time we do this program. Other than that, give us feedback. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like, tell us when you pass, even if you don't want to use this as an endorsement. That's an encouragement to us that we're making a difference. That's it, man. You got anything to say in closing?
Wake up with a smile, be your best you, and you can do it too. If I can do it, you can do it.
Oh, I got something else to add to that. If it's all that, remember, when you work from home, pants are optional.
I mean,
right?
But seriously though, let us know. We really do. We want to hear from you. And if you are working in this job and you don't have resources, I do encourage you to check out Security Studio's site. We've got a ton of resources to help make that job a little bit less painful for you, that are freely available without a email gate or registration. So please do take advantage of that. We are here to help. Both FRSecure and Security Studio serve a greater mission, and that mission is helping to fix this industry. This course has been one of the ways we do it. Your participation in the community is the other half of that equation. We need you to do that so that we can move on to that next piece of working on this mission to get things good for all of us.
Amen, brother. Way to close it out.